Alright, so hi there everyone, welcome back to the Observatory, and I wish you all a happy new year. Here we are on the 2nd of January, and it's time to get back into some of the mods on the Observatory. So the next piece of equipment has arrived, and this is for the shutter battery charger. So yeah, up in the shutter there's obviously a battery up there that's currently getting charged off of this small 2 amp charger that came with the next dome. And that's powered off the 240 inverter at the moment, but as I've been trying to switch over all the AC's loads over onto DC, I've got myself on my next piece of equipment, which is a Victron Orion TR-Smart DC to DC charger, and it can also be used in power supply mode, which I'm using for the supplies to the telescopes. So anyway, for this one it's a 20 amp unit, and I'm going to be mounting it just on here where I'd left the space for. I'm still waiting for the other unit to power the rigs, but God knows when that's going to turn up. So today we're going to get this mounted. I'm also going to be modifying the actual shutter, so where the charging points are, I've got very thin strips of metal, and you need to have it pretty accurate to get a charging point. So I'm going to be extending these and modifying the connection points up in the shutter. And as we know, I've mentioned in some of the previous videos, there is an issue where the shutter occasionally locks up its communications back to the rotator, and you got to power it off and on again to get things going again. So I've got myself another SOnOff unit. This one's a single channel B2 basic R2. However, these are normally, or they're actually designed for using AC mains in, and then it just switches that power on the output, which is obviously no use if I'm doing DC. So I made a modification to this one to run it off of 12 volts AC, 12 volts DC. So I'll put a link in the description there to the article on my website on detailing that modification. So I do plan to modify another couple of these for switching some of the equipment up on the telescope itself, but we'll come on to that at another day. So I'm going to fit this, tie that into the supply that goes to the Arduino controller inside the shutter, and that way I can control the power on and off, or power cycling it remotely without having coming down to the observatory. So we're going to be doing that as well. And I'm probably also going to modify the battery balancer, which sits down here in the power bay. The fuse supplies to that, I've got some temporary crappy cheap fuses, and I've got another little blade fuse assembly, so we'll probably get onto that as well at some point. So the first thing we'll do is we'll get this DC to DC charger installed and get it hooked up to the main batteries. Alright, so on with the show. And switch the output back on. Alright, so we've got a Blue LED coming on, everything's back on. Just need to turn the output back on this unit. So we've got the TR-Smart unit in, supplies hooked up. Just need to run a cable from here up to the shutter now. Everything else is back on, everything's tight, and all the outputs are re-energized. Good. Okay, so I've taken the cover off the shutter, and here we can see the two power supply cables that come in. I've dropped the battery out at the moment just because it was hanging loose and I didn't want it to fall out, so I'll re-secure that later. These are the two wires that go off to the micro switch for the close position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the SOnOff unit and I'm going to mount it here. There's plenty of room underneath, so that won't cause us any problems. So I'm going to mount that on here. Then the two power supply cables, I'll need to tie them into this side, and then take another two power supply cables out from here on the SOnOff unit back into the board. And hopefully that should be it. So let me get on with that. Alright then, so I've got the shutter mods done to the battery charger and installed the SOnOff unit relay, the wireless relay, onto the top of the shutter. So here we can see it here, and I've just got the cables coming up and in and out either side of it, and the red light on indicates that it's switched on at the moment, and I can control it here. And as we can see down the back where the Arduino board is, we can control the power on and off using the button on the SOnOff unit. And also I've set it up so that if I turn the main switch on and off, it'll power up back into its last state. So if it was on, it'll come on; if it was off, it'll stay off, and until you either press the button or control it through the app, Google Home Assistant. So here we are in the EWE Link, or whatever it's pronounced, and I've added the SOnOff unit, paired it the same as I did on the other SOnOff ones, and I've called it the shutter, and I can control the shutter now remotely. So when we get into a comms lockup and I'm inside doing remote imaging and the dome won't shut at night or whatever, I can just come onto my phone or say to Google to do it, and I've got control now remotely for power cycling the shutter, which is brilliant. Down at the bottom here, I've got the power caped in, so this is the battery charger now for the shutter. So it's all hooked up to the floating contacts, and I've also added in the extended plates, so it's a lot easier to find a charging position. And the important thing to note is that the width of these plates is narrower than the width of the contacts, so that it's not possible to short circuit the battery charger while it's charging the system. Yeah, so here's the battery charger all hooked up. The Bluetooth is operating, and I've paired it up with the Victron Connect app, and it's charging up fine. So the input voltage off the main solar system is 25.9 volts, and the voltage in the battery for the shutter is sitting at 14.2 volts at the moment, and it's in its absorption phase, and everything appears to be working okay. And there's just all the other Victron devices on the network. So the other job I was going to do today was the battery balancer fuse change, but unfortunately I've run out of daylight hours, so I'll just wait until another day for doing that, probably once I get the other PSU for the telescopes set up. Alright, so that was just another quick mod to the observatory power system, and that's it for the time being. So until the next one, clear skies everyone, take care and look after yourselves.